What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. I hope you're all doing well. We got another weekly recap. We got a lot to cover today. A lot happened in the last week. We got a couple of smaller news to start out the show. We had Polo Bonchero. He signed with the Jordan brand. It's kind of rare to see a rookie who hasn't even seen the court sign with a big-time brand, like Jordan brand or Nike, which, of course, is, kind of very similar to Jordan. Jordan, of course, put Nike on the map years ago. But Polo Bonchero, who was the number one overall pick by the Orlando Magic in this year's NBA draft, he has signed with the Jordan brand, and also for NHL, Jonathan Huberdeau, who is a star player they got back for Matthew Tkachuk in the trade from a couple weeks ago. He signed an 8-year, $84 million contract extension with the Calgary Flames. So the Flames make sure to lock him up. And unfortunately, there is some sad news. It's a shame for the second straight week I had some sad news, of course, on my show. I opened up last week's show with the passing of Bill Russell. We've also had another icon, Vin Scully, one of the greatest sports play-by-play announcers of all time. Did play-by-play for the Los Angeles Dodgers for 67 years. He retired a few years ago. He unfortunately, on the 2nd of August, he passed away at the age of, I believe he was 88 years old. That's a big shame. The Dodgers did a nice tribute to him. A lot of teams did a nice tribute to him. He was an incredible announcer. Maybe the best of all time. He was absolutely great. He just had such a soothing voice. Think about it. He announced Dodgers game for 67 years. He started announcing Dodgers games in 1950 when the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn. And then he stopped announcing games in 2016. He's had so many great calls. He did God knows how many World Series. He was the guy who made the call in the 1986 World Series in Game 6 when Mookie Wilson hit the ball through Bill Buckner's legs. He gets through Buckner, that famous call. Of course, he's a Met fan. That's a very important sports moment for me. He was the one who made that call, and he's had so many countless calls. He didn't even have a partner for the most part. He didn't even need one. That's how great he was. He may be the greatest announcer in the history of all baseball, maybe in all of sports. And rest in peace, Vin Scully. He was incredible. I know he was sick the last couple of years. It got tough. His wife passed away a few years ago, and it's got really tough for him. He stepped away from baseball, and then he got sick. And the last couple of years, I don't think were great. But at the age of he was 88 when he retired, so I believe, was 93 years old. My apologies, I was wrong the first time. He was 93, lived an incredibly long life, and rest in peace, Vin Scully. On a lighter note, the MLB trade deadline was on Tuesday. There's a lot of big moves that happened. I'm going to go team by team and just go over what they did. Let's start in the American League East. Let's start with the New York Yankees. They made a couple of really good moves. The first move they made, they got Andrew Benintendi from the Royals, of course, which is a really good move. Talked about it last week. They need an outfielder, and they get one. He's a left-handed bat, so they can replace Joey Gallo in their lineup. Also, he's the perfect guy for that lineup. A lineup that has a lot of guys who don't hit for a very high average and hit a lot of home runs. He's a guy who hits over 300 but doesn't hit a lot of home runs, so it kind of gives them that balance. He gets on base a lot. He's got playoff experience with the Red Sox, playoff success. He has a World Series ring. That was a really good pickup. Then they made a big trade to get Frankie Montas from the Oakland Athletics. They made a trade to give up 4 prospects, including pitcher J.P. Sears, who pitched a little bit in the majors earlier this year. They got Frankie Montas, who's a really good starting pitcher. He came to the Yankees for 3.1 ERA. as well as reliever Luke Trevino. They get him as well. Trevino has had a really bad year this year. He struggled this year. Came to the Yankees with a 6.47 ERA. But last year he had a really good season. As a rookie in 2018, he had a sub-3 ERA for the A's. Struggled in 2019. 2020 was a little better. Last year had a real good year. I think he had a 3.18 last year with 22 saves. But this year has an ERA of almost 6.5. So he struggled this year, but Yankees made a trade last year to get Clay Holmes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They gave up, a guy in Hoy Park who was who was a spark off the bench for them last year. They gave him up in another process to get Clay Holmes. At first, people thought it didn't make sense. Clay Holmes wasn't very good. He was inconsistent. They gave up a guy in Hoy Park who was helping them on the bench. It didn't make sense. And then fast forward a year later, he's maybe the best closer in the American League. So maybe the Yankees think, all right, if we can fix Clay Holmes, maybe we can fix Luke Trevino. And Trevino, only a year ago was a really good young reliever and pitched well last year. Pitched well in 2018, pitched pretty good in 2020. So maybe they think they could fix him. But the big move was getting Frankie Montas. They're without Luis Severino right now, so another really good rotation adds a really good starting pitcher. They also made a deal to get Scott Efros from the Chicago Cubs. He's a right-handed reliever. He's had a good year this year. He came to the Yankees for the ERA, I think, around 2.6 something. So he's had a good year. He's a solid bullpen piece that they pick up. So those three deals, I think, were really good trades for the Yankees. I am not a Yankees fan. In fact, I'm the opposite. I'm a Mets fan. But I do respect the moves they made. There was one move, though, I did not agree with. They made a move very late on trade deadline day. They traded starting pitcher Jordan Montgomery to the St. Louis Cardinals. In return, they got center fielder Harrison Bader back. And I'm live on Colorcast. No punts, our guy No Punts here in the chat asked if I'm a Mets fan. Yes, I am a Mets fan, born and raised. To the Yankees trade. This is what I thought of the Montgomery for Bader trade. The Yankees, even without Montgomery and without Severino, since they brought in Frankie Montas, still have a great rotation. Even if Luis Severino on the injured list, he was recently transferred to the 60-day IL, so he's not eligible to come back until mid-September, and Montgomery now in St. Louis. They still have Garrett Cole, who's one of the league's best pitchers, Nestor Cortez, who had a breakout season. They have Montas, who's really good. You have Jameson Taillon, who's been solid this year. And then you have Domingo Armand right now, filling in for Severino. He's your number 5 starter. It's a guy who's got some experience, had ups and downs the last couple of years. Still a very good rotation, but Montgomery's had a very good year. Probably the best of his career. He's got like a 3.5 ERA. And we saw him pitch against the Yankees the other day. He went 5 scoreless innings against the Yankees. I thought if you have him in the rotation, a rotation of Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Frankie Montas, Jordan Montgomery, and Jameson Taillon might be the best in baseball. And then you should get Luis Severino back before the postseason. You could put Jameson Taillon in the bullpen in the postseason. That would be a guy in the postseason that can give you length. You can put Jordan Montgomery probably also goes to the bullpen in the postseason. You got another guy that can give you length in that bullpen. And it gives you another left-hander in the bullpen for the postseason, along with, of course, your guys like Clay Holmes, and Lucas Lutej, and Wandy Peralta, and Scott Efros, and all the guys they already have there. Albert Abreu's another guy who's had a good year in the Yankees bullpen. Also, although Bader is excellent defensively, he's one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. He's not a very good hitter. He's having a career year offensively. He's still only hitting 256. His OPS is under 700. He only has 5 home runs or like 21 RBIs. Hey, he's hurt. He's been out for a while with plantar fasciitis in his foot. He won't be back for September. So they basically trade for a guy who they may not have for another month, and they gave up a starting pitcher for an ERA of 3.5. So I think that made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense for the Cardinals. When I talk about the Cardinals' moves, I'll go into more detail why that makes sense for them. But for the Yankees, you have a really good starting pitcher who would have been an asset in the bullpen for the playoffs. Would have possibly gave you the best rotation in baseball, even without, at least probably in the American League, maybe besides the Houston Astros, even with Luis Severino injured. and you move him for Bader, who's hurt. Also, the Yankees have so many outfielders. They got so many guys. You got, of course, Aaron Judge, who might be the MVP of the league in the American League, probably is. You got Giancarlo Stanton, who's coming off an injury, should be back pretty soon, coming off the Achilles. You bring in Benintendi, who's a really good player. You also have Aaron Hicks, who's not had a good year, but he is still there. Even Matt Carpenter, who's been so good since they got him. He's hitting like 325 in like 45 games. He's got 15 home runs in only like 43 or 45 games. You got to play him somewhere. And a lot of times they've had to put him in or left field or right field, even though he's not an outfielder. And they got to put him somewhere. With Anthony Rizzo at first, can't really put him over there. And he's not a very good defender anymore, so you really don't want to put him at third. Even though Donaldson's not having a good year. And at second, they have Gleyber Torres. You don't want to move Torres out of the lineup because he's having a great year. And a lot of times they've been, Stanton DHs or they might DH LeMay. You want to get him in the lineup, and LeMay can either play first, second, or third, and those spots are kind of taken. So honestly, it just gives them. I mean, it's a good problem to have like too many guys that deserve playing time. But now you really have like 5 outfielders. When fully healthy, you have Aaron Judge, you have Giancarlo Stanton, you have Andrew Benintendi, you have Harrison Bader, and you have Aaron Hicks. That's 5 outfielders, plus Matt Carpenter may need to get some time out there just so they can get him in the lineup. If you have 5, almost 6 guys on your roster that you really need to play, like, you're going to have a guy who should be probably starting every day on the bench. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It gives you more depth, but not only do they give up a good pitcher in Montgomery for a guy who might not be healthy for another month. The guy in Harrison Bader, he creates a logjam. So let's say you put him in center field. Of course, he's a great defensively. And you have Benintendi and Judge. You DH Stanton. You could put Donaldson on the bench. He's only hitting like 220, but now you can't have Matt Carpenter and DJ LeMay both in the lineup. But you want them both in the lineup, so that kind of creates a problem. Which, like I said, is a good problem to have. Because, too many good players, I guess. But like I said, like they also didn't really need me. Or they need a true center fielder. First of all, I think Benintendi can be a true center fielder. He's played left field because the teams he's been on have needed him to play over there. The Red Sox had Jackie Robert Jr. when he was there. The Royals at the time had Whit Merrifield playing in center field. And the Yankees have been, I think, playing him in left a little bit more than center. Because that's the line that they've chosen to go with. Like, they don't really need him. Like, Benintendi could easily play center field. You could play Stanton in left, Judge and right, and then you could DH, Carpenter or something. So I didn't really like that move. And to answer your question, though, Ponce, who's my favorite all-time at? My favorite all-time at is David Wright, the captain, number 5, third baseman. It's such a shame for what happened to him at the end of his career with the back injuries, but he is my all-time favorite player. He was my idol growing up. David Wright's my favorite all-time Met. See Patrick saying, your favorite is Scherzer. I love Max Scherzer. What a game he pitched last night. 7 scoreless innings, 11 strikeouts. He is literally Mad Max. That bull boy might need to get a new job because stupid guy ran behind the catcher and behind the umpire when Scherzer was about to pitch. Scherzer's going to kill that guy. I don't know what the kid was thinking. He's lucky he didn't distract Scherzer. Scherzer airmailed him in the head. Scherzer hit 98. Kid might have been dead. And Patrick's my second favorite team. Thank you for respect to the Mets, Patrick. As for the Toronto Blue Jays, this is going down the list. We're going team by team, division by division. Still in the American League East. I thought the Blue Jays did a very good job. They pick up Whit Merrifield, a utility guy from the Royals, who's not having a great year, only hitting about 240. But he has driven in 40-plus runs. He does have 22 or 23 doubles. He does have 15 steals. He's been around a while. He's led the league in stolen bases 3 times. He led the league in doubles last year. He's led the American League in hits twice. Though he's now 33 and past his prime. He's very versatile. Can play second, can play third, can play the outfield. So it gives the Blue Jays some versatility in their lineup. He's playing. He'll probably be playing center field for the time being. With Springer out, once Springer comes back, they'll probably forget. He'll have to get time at second. I mean, Calvin Biggio's only hitting 220 of 2 home runs this year, so they'll decide whether they want him or Calvin Biggio at second base every day. Maybe they'll flip flop him. We'll see. That was a pretty good move. They give up 2 prospects for him. And they also made a deal. They got 2 relievers from the Miami Marlins. They got Anthony Bass and Zach Pop. I think a really good move. Both right-handers. Bass is a former Blue Jay. He comes back to them. He's had a great year this year. His ERA is like 1.5 something. He's had a phenomenal season. His team option is worth just $3 million next year. And Zach Pop is a guy who's only in his second year in the league. He's got a 63% ground ball rate, which is amazing. And he's walked just 2 guys all season. He's only throwing about 21 innings, but still 2 walks in 21 innings is really good. He's still only in his second year in the league. He's not arbitration eligible until 2024. So they pick up 2 good relievers. They give up Jordan Groshans, who is their third best prospect. I believe at the start of the year was in the top 100 in the MLB. But he also hasn't had a great year in the minor league. In AAA, his first year AAA, he's only hitting 250. Doesn't have a great slash line with just 1 home run and like 200 at bats. So Miami moves to relievers. And they get back a guy who could be a really good young prospect. That's for them to evaluate. But Toronto definitely improves their bullpen. And they also get some burst in the lineup with Whit Merrifield. Tampa Bay Rays. Rays didn't do too much. They pick up a couple outfielders. They pick up David Peralta, which I do like the move. They have a lot of injuries in their lineup, especially in the outfield. With Kevin Kiermaier, he's done for the year. Manuel Margot's been out for a while. They don't have Howard Ramirez, who's a guy who's filled in very well. He's also out. On the infield, their catcher, Mike Zunino's out. Well, their Franco, their shortstop's out. They have so many injuries to their lineup, especially in the outfield. So bringing in Peralta, I think, was a good move. Guy who's a little bit past his prime, but he is still heading around 250. He's got like 12 home runs, driven in 40 runs. He's a good veteran leader, can play out 3 outfield spots. That was a pretty good move. They also they were involved in a 3-team trade with Houston, and they get Jose Siri. You have a couple of prospects in that 3-team trade with Houston and Baltimore. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. They took Jose Siri, who's only hitting about 170 this year, but he is still just 27 years old. He might get a little more play time. In Tampa seems to be really good when it comes to player development, so you never know. And they give him some depth, which they do need in the outfield. And they made a small trade. They got Garrett Clevenger from the Dodgers. He's a left-handed pitcher. So the Rays made a couple of tweaks in their outfield, which they didn't need because they have a lot of guys out. Orioles were interesting. I thought their team, obviously, I believe they came into the year with the worst record since 2018, but they've played a lot better this year. They're right now 5 games over 500. They've won 5 games in a row. They're only a game out of the playoffs all of a sudden. They're in 4th place in the American League East. And, about a month ago, you would have probably said, oh, they're definitely going to sell. Although they're playing better than expected still, we're going to sell. But then they got really hot. They ended up on like an 11-game win streak. And they got back, and all of a sudden they were a 500 team. They were only a couple games out of a playoff spot. And it got interesting. But they did decide to sell. They traded their closer, Jorge Lopez, all-star closer. They traded him away for a couple prospects, and they did flip their designated hitter, Trey Mancini. Of course, a great story. 2020 did not play because he had cancer. He came back last year and had a pretty good season, was comeback player of the year, has had another decent year this year. They trade him to Houston. And a 3-team trade, they get a couple prospects back for Mancini, but so the Orioles, I thought maybe they would stand pat. Maybe they would keep Mancini and try to re-sign him. And, I thought they would at least keep Jorge Lopez, since Jorge Lopez still has a couple years of arbitration left, but I decided to try to get the most back for him when they could, I guess. Both were fan favorites, especially Trey Mancini. Mancini actually thanked the trainers and the team doctors right after he got traded. He said the team doctors that discovered he had cancer may have saved his life. So hopefully he does well in Houston. But the Orioles decided to sell. The Boston Red Sox were very, very interesting. So they're a team that's been really struggling. They're now 4 games out of a playoff spot. And they decided they had some guys who were going to be free agents. And they decided it looked like they were going to sell, but they did not trade Xander Bogaerts, who probably is going to opt out, one of the league's best shortstops. To not trade Rafael Devers, from the league's best third baseman, who only has 1 year of arbitration before hitting the open market. Did not trade JD Martinez, their slugging DH, who will be a free agent at the end of the season. Did not trade Nathan Eovaldi, who's a decent starting pitcher. Got like a 4.43 ERA this year, which isn't great, but guy with a lot of postseason experience and postseason success, has a World Series ring. Did not trade him. However, they did trade their catcher Christian Vasquez away. And then they make a move. They trade Jake Diekman, who's had a ERA right around 4, left-handed reliever. They trade him away. They get back Reese McGuire from the White Sox, who was their backup catcher. He'll now be their starter. But they also made a couple of moves to buy. They picked up Eric Hosmer, a veteran first baseman from the Padres. He's hitting around 260 with 8 home runs and 41 RBIs. Padres are paying the majority of his $44 million salary, I heard. He's not the player he once was, but he's still pretty good. He is an upgrade over Bobby Dalbec at first. And then they pick up Tommy Pham, who, of course, became famous for smacking Jock Peterson in the face over a fantasy football dispute earlier in the year. And although he was only hitting 238, that's what he was hitting when he came to the Red Sox. Of course, I'm sure that number is changed because he's played a few games already in Boston. He came to the Red Sox also with 11 home runs, so I didn't really love the first 2 moves if Boston really wants to compete. Now, you downgraded catcher. Vasquez has had a really good year. He's hitting like 280 with like 40-plus RBIs, got like 8 home runs, and he's great defensively. From him to Reese McGuire, he's hitting like 230 with no home runs. You move a somewhat decent reliever from a bullpen that has been struggling all year. So your bullpen that's already not good got even worse. You downgrade the catcher position. That being said, they do upgrade a little bit at first base, going from Bobby Dalbec, who's only hitting like 220 with 11 home runs, to Eric Hosmer, who's hitting like almost 270 with 8 homers and 40-something RBIs. Of course, has a World Series win with the Royals in 2015. And they also do upgrade their outfield, which needs some help. They just cut Jackie Bradley Jr. because he was so bad. Alex Verdugo was struggling. They pick up Tommy Pham, who's got some power. And no, Pump, to answer your question, you're a baseball junkie. Is that your favorite sport? Thank you very much. Yes, baseball is my favorite sport. Love baseball. So Boston, they get better they upgrade at first base, and they get better in the outfield, but they downgrade at catcher and in the bullpen. So I know it was a little confusing. I would have said either go all in, keep Bogaerts, keep Devers, keep Vasquez, keep all these guys, and roll the dice. Go out and get some pitching, maybe another outfielder, and try to make the playoffs. Or say, you know what, we're not playing well, might not make the playoffs. Even if we do, we're not going to go far in the playoffs probably. Let's, kind of blow this thing up a little bit. Let's move all of our free agents. And let's move Xander Bogaerts. Let's get what we can from before he probably leaves in free agency. And, I would even consider moving Rafael Devers. Which will be interesting what happens in the offseason with Rafael Devers. He's a great player. They've tried talking extension with him the last couple of years, haven't been able to agree on anything, kind of like Bogaerts. So it'll be interesting if they can't agree on an extension in the offseason. I wonder if they would trade him in the offseason. That'll be something that we'll have to wait and see. But Boston's a little confusing. They get better at 2 spots, but get worse at 2 other spots. On to the American League Central. Comment said, "You remind me of Packers." I get people mixed up. You're a Kyrie and Katie hater, right? Yes, I am a Kyrie and Katie hater. I cannot stand Kevin Durant. I think he's a complete diva. Although he's an incredible player, he's a complete diva, and he can't carry a team. And I cannot stand Kyrie. I think he's a complete idiot. I think he's a baby. I think he's way oversensitive, kind of like Durant. And he's always causing drama, and he's very annoying. Back to baseball in the American League Central. We'll start with the Detroit Tigers. Tigers, they didn't do much. They did trade Robbie Grossman. They flip him, but they don't do anything else. They've been very disappointing. The Detroit Tigers. They made a lot of moves this offseason. We thought, after last year, 77 wins was a lot better than they had done the last couple of years. So they spent money this offseason. We thought they might make the playoffs, and they've been a complete disappointment. They got to fire Gmail. He has done terrible job. They have not won anything under him. They have not. I don't even think they've been to the playoffs under him. They haven't really gotten that close. This offseason, he gives Javier Baez $140 million. Baez is a guy who can give you 30, 35 homers, 90 to 100 RBIs, and elite defense and elite speed. He's going out hitting. He's hitting 210. Power isn't there. They trade for also Miles. They don't give up a lot for him, but Miles has been horrible, and he's hurt. They gave Eduardo Rodriguez $77 million. He has not been very good. He's away from the team right now with some personal issues. None of the moves they made have worked out at all. And he gave Jonathan Scope a 2-year extension last year. Scope's hitting 205. He gave Robbie Grossman a 2-year extension last year, or he didn't extend him, but he decided not to trade him. Should have done that. Tigers were going to make the playoffs last year, and this year he's hitting 210. He can hit righties, but cannot hit lefties for his life. So you end up getting a lot less than you would have gotten for him when last year he had another year of control and was having a much better season. And they said pretty much everyone was available. We thought, could they make a big move and move a guy like Tarek Skubal, their best starting pitcher? Didn't do that. By the way, Miguel Cabrera had some controversial comments saying that he might retire. He clarified them saying, I do plan to play next year in what looks like will be his last season of what has been an incredible career. But Tiger, outside of moving Robbie Grossman, didn't do much. Yeah, I'll be he's not done a good job at all. They already haven't developed talent that well. Gamer Candelaro's a guy we thought could be a superstar. He hasn't really turned out. They got that guy, Doel Lugo. You got him for JD Martinez. He did not turn out at all. Spencer Torkelson's career is off to a terrible start. He was hitting 190. They sent him back to the minors. Number 1 pick in the draft a couple of years ago. Though Riley Green's look pretty good, Daz Cameron hasn't done anything yet. He hasn't looked good so far. So something's going on in Detroit. Something's in the water over there. Detroit sports are not good at all. Cleveland Guardians didn't do anything really at all. They actually just DFA'd Framil Reyes, who has an OPS of 601 this year. He had 30 homers last year. He's been really bad this year. They didn't do anything. They're actually only 2 games behind the Twins in the American League Central. I thought they could have done something, but they did not do anything. I would have probably made a move. They got some good pitching, but they could have used another big bat in the lineup, and they didn't do that. Patrick Rush just wrote, Riley Green is good. Yes, yeah. I do like him. He's very young, very talented, one of the league's one of the best prospects in baseball. I think he has a very bright future ahead of him. Not sure if Detroit will be able to develop him properly because to be able to develop anybody. But we'll see what happens. Chicago White Sox. The White Sox, they didn't do much. All they did, they traded their backup catcher, Reese McGuire, for Jake Diekman, which was a pretty good move. So, a solid left-handed reliever that they pick up. Their lineup has been very underwhelming this year, and they're one of the league's most disappointing teams. What I really think they need to do is make a manager change. I think that's what they really need to do. Tony La Russa, he's one of the league's best managers the league's ever seen, but he is just unwilling to incorporate any sort of analytics into his game. He has not incorporated it well enough. Look at 2 guys in Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker who are very, very old and managing for 30 plus years. Despite being, their styles seeming like they may not work, they're still thriving because they've done a perfect job in incorporating the analytics and combining it perfectly with their old school approach. Tony La Russa has not done that, which is why last year, though they won the division, yeah, they had some controversies throughout the year, and they got swept in the first round by Houston. He was completely outcoached by Dusty Baker in that series, and this year they are been a 500 team. But they're still only 3 games out of first place. What they did was pick up a reliever in Jake Diekman, who I don't even think it has pitched this season. Trading Reese McGuire wasn't that big of a loss, obviously, but some people might be disappointed, like they need to add some bats, but I think their best shot might be getting La Russa out of there. Maybe to get some sort of spark, like the Toronto Blue Jays and the Philadelphia Phillies have done this year. And if it works, great. If not, then you make some changes off season and try again next year. Because either way, I'll see La Russa coming back next year. Kansas City Royals were sellers. They trade Benintendi. I thought that trade, it made sense giving him to the Yankees. Free to the end of the season. Royals suck. They're not going anywhere. They're rebuilding. Might as well move them. They traded Whit Merrifield, though, which is surprising. He's due $9.3 million next year. Then he has a mutual option for $18 million in 2024. He gets back 3 prospects for Benintendi. He got back 2 for Merrifield. Probably should trade Merrifield when he had a chance to get a ton back about 2 years ago, but waited a little too long there. But he does get something back for him, and they're going to be sellers. The Minnesota Twins actually did a very good job. The Twins bullpen needed help, and they got it help. They got Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. He's a really good young reliever, right-hander. He was actually the guy they got from the Mets and the Yoenis Cespedes trade. Was Rookie of the Year as a starter, but then since Tommy John has fallen off, they put him in the bullpen and he's pitched a lot better. He's turned into a good reliever. They get him, and they get the Orioles All-Star closer Jorge Lopez. So they pick up 2 really good relievers. They pick up a really good closer in Jorge Lopez. They pick up Michael Fulmer to add to the bullpen. They also pick up a solid starting pitcher in Tyler Mayer from the Reds, who hasn't been as good as he was last year when he had a really good year, but he's still been decent. So Twins improved their pitching, which they need to do. So I think they did a good job. Still only 2 games ahead in that terrible Romantic League Central Division, but they definitely did the best out of all the teams in that division. Have a trade deadline. American League West, Angels did a lot of selling, but I thought did get a return. They traded away Brandon Marsh, a young outfielder, who hasn't worked out, but they get back Logan O'Hoppe, a young catcher, who's a very good catching prospect. They trade away Noah Syndergaard, a veteran starting pitcher, who is not what he once was. But they get back Mickey Moniak, who's a former number 1 overall pick who has been a bust so far, but is still young and is a project. And they trade away Rizal Iglesias, their closer, who was not having a great year. They don't get that much back. But they get back Tucker Davidson and Jesse Chavez. Tucker Davidson is a young starter who they can evaluate, another project that they take on. And also, that contract they gave Iglesias has not worked out so far, and they're able to move his contract, which is a good thing. He was going full on Selma, but I thought they got a good return on their trade. Seattle Mariners made a big move getting Luis Castillo from the Reds. Give up a lot in that trade. Give up 4 prospects, three of them being in their top 5 prospects, including their number 1 prospect. I think his name is Novelty Marte. I think he's a shortstop. But they get one of the best pitchers in the National League, and now, of course, he's in the American League. And Seattle now has one of the league's best rotations, with Logan Gilbert, who's in a breakout year, Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, and Chris Flexen, and George Kirby, who might be a Rookie of the Year candidate. Did not make a in addition to their lineup, which I thought they could have used some more help. But also, they're going to be getting Mitch Haniger back soon. Kyle Lewis is just getting back. Maybe Jared Kelenic will come back up and he'll look a little better. So maybe they're hoping these guys that are getting back from injuries will help their lineup. But big move to get a big time starting pitcher for the Mariners, who have been playing some great baseball for a while now. They're currently tied for the second wild card in the American League with the Tampa Bay Rays. Texas Rangers didn't really do much. They bring back Matt Bush, a young reliever. They got him from Milwaukee. They didn't really do anything. They were kind of stuck in the middle. Bring in Seagrams. I mean, it really hasn't worked out so far. That's something that might take some time. Oakland, they move Frankie Montas, which they kind of need to do. They're going into a big rebuild. When Montas is a free agent after next year, they won't be ready to win. So they get back 4 solid prospects, including the Yankees and fifth best prospect, JP Sears. So they got a pretty good return for Montas, and they do move Lou Trevino, but he's been terrible this year anyway. Astros did a good job. Astros, who already have one of the league's best teams, already have probably a top 3 team in baseball. I think should be considered the World Series favorite because they have a great lineup. They have a really good deep starting rotation, and they also have a great bullpen. They pick up Trey Mancini, and already really good lineup. Picks up a right-handed bat in Mancini, who's mainly a DH, but he can play first as well as left field. He'll probably play first base every day over Yuli Gurriel. He's had these in the air. They got Christian Vasquez, which I think is a great move. Astros have gotten maybe the worst production out of the catchers of any team. Although they've gotten good defense from Marty Maldonado and Jason Castro. Maldonado's hitting like 160. Jason Castro, who doesn't have a lot of at-bats, he's only hitting like 115. And Corey Lee, in very little at-bats, is hitting like 170. Although Maldonado and Castro are great defenders, like I said, they haven't got anything offensively. They bring in a guy in Vasquez, who is great defensively, and he's had a good year at the plate. That's a great move for Houston. So I think they made 2 really good moves. And they trade Jake Odorizzi as well. They didn't really need him because they have so much starting pitching, and they pick up Will Smith in that deal from Atlanta. He's a really good left-handed reliever who's got a lot of experience closing games. Something happened to Ryan Presley, which does happen. Presley has trouble staying on the field at times. So Houston did a great job. They pick up another right-handed bat. They get the upgraded catcher they needed, and they get a good left-handed reliever. As for the National League, let's go to the National League. Let's go to the National League East. Let's start with the New York Mets, my favorite team. And you got a lot of people saying that they didn't do a great job. I think they did a pretty good job. Oh, they did not make a big move like we thought they might get. Wilson Contreras, an all-star catcher, plus a really good left-handed reliever and David Robertson from the Cubs. They didn't do that. Thought they might get a power bat in JD Martinez. They didn't do that trade, but they did make their team better. They did upgrade the DH spot, which they need to do, because J.B. Davis and Dom Smith had done a terrible job in that at the DH spot. Dom especially. They brought in a couple about a week or so before the deadline. They went out and got Dan Vogelbach from the Pirates. He's a guy though, he can't hit lefties. He's hitting like 140 against lefties. He kills righties. He's been great since he came over. The Mets are like 10-0 or 9-1 in games that he started. Guy's got a lot of power. He's very disciplined. He's a fan favorite. And also loves to eat. He's a very large guy. Clubhouse loves him. He's been a really good pickup, and they also pick up Darren Ruff, who hits lefties really well. So now they can a guy like Vogelbach, who came to the Mets with a 260 average, a 350 on base, and a 500 plus slugging against right-handers. And they bring in a guy in Darren Ruff. They give up J.B. Davis and three prospects. Davis, he needs a fresh start. He wasn't having a good year. I mean, give up three pitching prospects as well. Good guy in Darren Ruff, who although he can't really, he's very bad against righties. He came to the Mets with an 886 OPS, which is excellent against left-handers. So that's a really good platoon. And Ruff can also play first bases as well as left field. And they had a really good, solid reliever, Michael Givens, who had 2.66 ERA with the Cubs this year. Hasn't pitched great in 3 games since coming over, but I'm confident he can turn it around and pitch like he did for the Cubs. But I think they did a pretty good job. Also, they had Tyron Naquin from the Reds. I've an outfitter who's played pretty well since coming over. So they upgrade, from Vogelbach and Ruff. If the right left combo at DH, much better than J.B. Davis and Dom Smith. Dan Vogelbach's a major upgrade over J.B. Davis. Davis this year was hitting like 230 or 4 home runs. Vogelbach against righties is killing righties this year, and he's very patient at the plate. He's got 14 home runs. And then you get Darren Ruff replaces Dom Smith. Dom was awful this year, and Darren Ruff's a guy who's hit lefties really, really well. And you do add to your bullpen of Michael Givens. The bullpen, Edwin Diaz might be the best closer in baseball right now. You have Adam Alvino, who's had a good year. You have Seth Lugo, who's been not great, but he's been pitching better. And then you had Givens. You should get Drew Smith back soon. You just got Trevor May back. He has struggled this year, but was good last year. He's been out since May. No pun intended. Get him again. Tyrone McGill, who pitched great in the beginning of the year as a starter, could come back as a reliever late in the season. So I do think they did make their team better. Also, Tyrone Naquin is an upgrade as a fourth outfielder over Travis Janikowski. Janikowski really is there to pinch run. And Naquin's a guy who is a very good outfielder, just like Janikowski, and also is a somewhat decent hitter who hits righties very well. So I think the Mets did a good job. They could have done a little better. Yeah, they could have went out and got a catcher, but McCann and Neat, although they can't hit, are great defensively. They do make a already really good lineup better. They do upgrade the DH spot, which they need to do, and they upgrade the bench to gives them some more depth and versatility. Now they can play the matchups really well, and they do improve their bullpen with Michael Givens. And of course, they get Trevor May back, which hopefully he pitches a little better and will help. And Drew Smith should be coming off the IL. He was placed on the IL last week. Should get him back in hopefully the next couple weeks, and maybe Tyler McGill in September. Could be a guy who can give you some length for the postseason. Also, they've won 3 of the last 4 against Atlanta. They have the series finale today. They had the series finale today, and they're about 5 to 6 games up on the Braves, so they're in a good spot. Speaking of the Braves, they also did a very good job. Team that's still in the division race against the Mets shouldn't have a problem being the first wild card. They get Roswell Glaze, who hasn't had a great year this year, but he's got a very good track record of being a very good closer. He won't close because they have Cameron Jansen, but he's a good bullpen piece to pick up. He's got 3 years left on his contract. That's a good move. They give up Tucker Davidson, the young starter who pitched pretty well last year before he got hurt, but struggled this year, wasn't really contributing. And Jesse Chavez, who hasn't had a good year either, out of their bullpen. They do trade Will Smith, a good left-handed reliever, for Jake Rizzi, but they need a little more starting pitching, and they've had some great relief pitching all year, and they get Rizzi, who's a solid starting pitcher. They get him from Houston, And they move Smith, but then they get back a reliever and Iglesias from the Angels, who they don't give up much to get. So I thought Braves do a good job at adding some pitching. Of course, they already have a lot of offense. Philadelphia Phillies also did a good job. They made a couple of deals with the Angels. They give up some prospects. They get Brandon Marsh. Two super deals with the Angels. Get outfielder Brandon Marsh, and then starting pitcher Noah Syndergaard. So Marsh hasn't had a great year offensively. He's got a fourth top prospect, been a bit of a bust. He's only hitting like 225. But he is a great center fielder defensively, and the Phillies might have the worst defense in the league. Their defense is terrible. Of course, they've had the DH Harper, Robert Schwarber, and Castellanos in the outfield every day, which obviously is a recipe for disaster defensively. So they get better defense. They give up a good catching prospect, but they already have JT Realmuto, so that guy, Logan O'Hopper, doesn't have any path to playing time anyway. And give up Noah Syndergaard, who's not what he once was. He can't throw as hard as he used to. His stuff isn't the same. Obviously, he's, as a Met fan, I know how arrogant the guy truly is. He can't, he's not striking out as many guys as he used to. But he's still a decent middle rotation starter. They got Mickey Moniak, who is a former number one pick, but he wasn't doing anything for them, so they pick up a starting pitcher, pick up a really good center fielder, and they improve their bullpen. They got David Robinson, who's had a really good year. Closing game for the Cubs, left-hander. On a lefty along with Brad Hand. So the Phillies improved their pitching, also improved their defense in the outfield, which was something that they need to do. They did a pretty good job. Marlins were interesting. They decided to sell, which I thought was the right move. They Trey Turlio's and Bass and Zach Pop, which is interesting. Pop's a guy who's young. They kind of kept Bass the guy off a $3 million team option. If you're not optimistic about competing next year, then Bass is probably is an excellent guy to trade. Pop, I'm not sure, but did you get a very talented prospect back in Jordan Groshans, who's maybe a third baseman and maybe a third baseman. Can also play short. Has also played first baseman in the outfield as well. Hasn't had a great year at AAA, but he is very talented, and now they can evaluate him. We're close to moving Pablo Lopez to the Yankees. Did not complete a trade there. No loss to Nationals. Okay. All right. Obviously, they were sellers. They trade not only Juan Soto, a young star, one of the league's best players, and they flipped Josh Bell in the same trade, a slugging first baseman. But Soto does not want to be there. You can tell, he does not have the same energy that he's had in past years this year. He's still playing well, but not to the fullest of his that he could be. I think he just doesn't want to be there. Now he was distracted. And the guy turned down a 15-year deal of $440 million. What else are you going to offer him? You got a new owner coming in who doesn't want to do what Derek Jeter did and say, like, hey, guys, I'm your new owner. I'm just going to trade every single good player you have. At least, this ownership can do it for him. So at least, he's already off a team and he can just, kind of say, hey, guys, I know we're not great, but we have a lot of young pieces, and now we're going to build something. I think that's a better match than Derek Jeter coming in with the Marlins and being like, hi, guys, I'm going to trade every single good player that we had, and we're basically screwed for the next 5 years. And they get a lot back for him. They get back C.J. Abrams, a really good young shortstop who could be a superstar. Get back a really good young left-handed starting pitcher. Mackenzie Gore could be a stud. They get back a couple of other highly talented prospects. And they also got back Luke Voigt, who's a very good starting first baseman, or doesn't hit a really good power hitting first baseman DH. They didn't have a choice. They had a choice, so he didn't want to be there. And Josh Bell's from that free agent. You might as well flip him since you have the worst record in baseball. And they got a lot back, so that was a good return on that trade. Milwaukee Brewers. Right. They trade Hader. Interesting move. Decide to trade him to get a good return and get back Taylor Rogers, who is a pretty good closer, but he's not Hader. Although he's ERA is lower than Hader. Hader's is at 4.24 because he's had a couple of rough outings recently. Before these rough outings, that ERA was under 1. So though it doesn't look like it, he has been pretty much for the most part typical Hader. To get back to Nelson Lamet, who's a good young starter who has had inconsistencies and injuries recently, but he's flashed at times, and they get back 2 good prospects as well. But they traded maybe the best reliever in baseball when they were in first place. So I don't know. So we'll see how that works out. Cardinals, I thought, did a good job. We're actually a game ahead of Milwaukee right now. Milwaukee was in first place at the time. That's what I meant by saying they were in first place. They were at the time they did betray the trade deadline. They made the deal. Now we're a game out. All the Cardinals, they missed on Juan Soto, but they did improve their starting pitching. They pick up Jose Quintana. They pick up 2 left-handed starters, actually. Both lefties they picked up. They pick up Jose Quintana from the Pirates. Don't give up much for him. He's had a good season and a bounce back after he was horrible last year. And they pick up Drew Montgomery, who's really good. Got 3.5 ERA for the Yankees this year. Very good starting pitcher. For Quintana, they give up a prospect. For Montgomery, they give up Harrison Bader, who probably is not going to resign after the season and is injured for at least another month. He's always great defensively, is not a good hitter, and he's injured. And they had a solid right-handed reliever in Chris Stratton. So, Cardinals improved their pitching, which they needed to do. Mentioned what they did last year. Last year, people were confused. They got Joe Lester, who looked pretty washed with the Cubs. And they get Jay Happ, a veteran starter. They gave up on one of those trades. Then they gave up a talented young piece. They brought in 2 washed starters, which didn't make, even though they were kind of falling out of the race. And then from there got hot. Those 2 guys pitched pretty well. So nothing flashy. They make the move, the swap with Montgomery, and then they got Quintana and Stratton. But I think those 2 moves are good moves, and I think they'll end up in the playoffs. Could even win their division. Then you have the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are interesting. So they did sell off a bunch of pieces. They traded a bunch of relievers. They traded Scott Efros to the Yankees. David Robinson. They trade him away. They trade away Chris Martin. Michael Givens went to the Mets. So they flip a bunch of relievers who were going to be free agents. But I don't understand why I didn't trade Wilson Contreras. He saw the All-Star game at catcher from National League. You could have gotten a pretty good return for him, and you didn't trade him. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. I would have also traded Ian Happ, who's having the best year of his career. Only signed for next year in arbitration. They won't be very good next year either, I don't think. But they decided to keep him, but I thought they could have sold a little more. The Reds were sellers. They sold off a lot of pieces. I thought they got some good returns. They flipped Tommy Pham to the Red Sox. They flipped Tom Allen to the Twins. They flipped Brandon Drury to the Padres. They get a good prospect back for Drury. They traded Naquin to the Mets along with Philip DL, who's useless anyway. ERA over 9 in just 5 games this year. And also, they got a ton back for Luis Castillo. Novelli Martinez, a shortstop, is an incredible prospect. He's very talented. They got some other good prospects, so I thought they did a good job selling off the Reds. Pittsburgh Pirates, they did a pretty good job. I like the Vogelbach trade. That's it. That might be a win-win trade because they get, Vogelbach is definitely helping the Mets. I'm very happy the Mets got him, but they get back Colin Holderman, who's a good young reliever who's having a good rookie season. They're able to flip Quintana. They're able to flip Chris Stratton. They didn't trade any of their big guys. Brian Reynolds, David Bednar, didn't trade those guys. Which I agree with. I think they should build around those guys. So I thought Pirates did a pretty good job selling. That's the National League West. Dodgers really didn't do that much. They picked up Joey Gallo. All right. I actually didn't mind that trade. He's been horrendous. He's hitting just like 160 this year. He's been horrible. But they give up like a no-name prospect for him. They figured in the past he's been a guy that can give you 40 home runs and draw a lot of walks and play go-glove defense in the outfield. He's been horrendous this year. Maybe he catch lightning in the bottle. Not costing you anything. So they took a chance with him. The very, if he still hits 160, 150 with them, they can just let him. He's a free agent at the end of the year. They don't give up much. But I do like them getting Chris Martin, a solid reliever there. They bring in Herman Tapia as some depth in their outfield. And they also trade away Garrett Clevenger, who's nothing but, they could have kept him for depth. They trade away Jake Lamb, so they could have kept him for depth on the bench. Dodgers, I didn't think need to do that much. They have probably the best lineup in the league. They have probably a top 3 rotation in baseball. They have a good bullpen. They have all the pieces to win their second World Series title in 3 years. We'll see what happens in the postseason. But I like them adding Chris Martin to their bullpen. I like them making that move. They give up nothing for Gallo. He's horrendous. All the Yankees fans I know a lot of them living in Long Island, they are rejoicing that he's off their team. They figure, if he goes out there and is still maybe the worst player in baseball, all right, fine. He's not going to probably play much anyway. We don't have to re-sign him. He's a free agent, and we're not going to give anything to get him. He did have a good year. Before he got traded to the Yankees last year, he was pretty good in Texas. But they could have done more, but they pick up a solid reliever, and the Gallo thing is kind of whatever. Giants were interesting. No, they did not trade Carlos Rodano, their all-star starter, who may opt out of the season. Did not trade impending free agent outfielder Jock Peterson, who was an all-star this year. We thought they would, but they did. They flipped Kirk Casale, who's a good catcher behind the plate, who's gotten the majority of the playing time with Joey Bart in the minor league for most of the year since he struggled. They flipped veteran starter Matt Boyd, who's had a bounce back campaign. And I am happy that the Mets got Darren Ruff, like I talked about earlier, but they get back J.B. Davis, who in 2019 who hit over 20 home runs. And they get back Fleet Prospect as well. And then Arizona, they did a little bit of starting. They flipped Peralta to the Rays. They also flipped starter Luke Weaver. They didn't get much back. I thought they could have done a little more. Colorado, though. What's Colorado doing? You gave Chris Bryant like $180 million this offseason. He's barely even played. You knew you weren't going to win this year. So I like them extending closer than Daniel Barr, 2 years, $19 million. Although he's almost 38, of course, he's a crazy story. He was out of baseball for like 6 years. He's got the yips, and he's come back. He hasn't been that good, but he's had a good year this year. Now, maybe you could trade him next year if he has another really good year, and he'd probably get even more you would have gotten for him this year. But I would have flipped Alex Colomé, their reliever, starter Trey Cool, probably would have flipped him. I would trade CJ Cron. I don't think they're going to be good next year. They could have gotten a lot for him. But they didn't. So now I feel what the Rockies did. San Diego Padres, they won the deadline. They gave up a lot to get Soto, but he's one of the league's best players with 2 years of arbitration left. And they get a slug first baseman in Josh Bell. They get maybe the league's best closer when he's on, and Josh Hader as well. They give up a bunch in that deal, but he's worth it. They get Drury. He's got like 20 home runs this year. He's having a career year. Can play all over the field. So San Diego is already a good team. Currently the second wildcard National League, got a lot better. And they're going to get Fernando Tatis back soon. They haven't had him all year. So San Diego could be a force in the playoffs. And that is your 2022 MLB trade deadline recap. Now to NFL. Something I want to get off my chest. Deshaun Watson, of course, the former Houston Texans quarterback, now the Cleveland Browns quarterback, who did not play last year because he didn't want to play there, and of course he was being accused by 24 different women for sexual misconduct. He was finally suspended, but he got a 6-game suspension. I think that is embarrassingly low. I'm very happy Roger Goodell appealed it. They want at least a year plus a fine. I hope it gets at least a year. I know that the 9 women in criminal court were found not guilty. I know most of them have been settled, but he makes so much money, Deshaun Watson. He, settled could mean he just offered $1 million of hush money. So I'm not gonna. I don't know that for sure. Most of that's what happened, but I could see it happening, unfortunately. And I hope it gets at least a year. He hasn't been proven guilty or innocent yet. And in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. But 24 women, all of the same story. I find that a little hard to believe that he did not commit some sort of misconduct there. And also, when it comes to Apple's personal conduct policy, he abused it more than anyone I've ever seen in my life. So he should probably get a extremely long suspension. You look at MLB, Trevor Bauer, starting pitcher for the Dodgers. He was accused of some sort of sexual misconduct with one woman, was found not guilty in court. He still got like a 2-year suspension. So why can't, when Watson is accused, although he was found not guilty in criminal court, 24 women accused him. Why can't he get 1 year? Also, you can't suspend Calvin Ridley, the receiver for the Falcons, for a whole year for placing a legal bet on his own team while he was away from the team because he was battling an injury and mental health problems. And Deshaun Watson, who was accused of 24 different women of some sort of sexual misconduct, half of what he got. That does not make any sense. That makes 0 sense. I don't get it. Hopefully he gets at least a year. More NFL news, Kareem Hunt, the Cleveland Browns running back, he requests a trade or he did not get a contract extension. He's a good running back for them. Him and Nick Chubb are the best running back duo in football. Browns have denied his trade request, so we'll see what happens there. Then we have some unfortunate bad news. Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Hollywood Brown got arrested. He was driving, I think, 126 miles per hour in a 60. Not good there. Arizona news with the receivers has not been good, with DeAndre Hopkins suspended for 6 games. Now Hollywood Brown, who they give up a first-round pick to get, has been arrested. And as for news in training camp, this is an odd one. The veteran linebacker Kiko Alonso, who been out of the league for a couple of years, he signed a 1-year deal with the Saints for Saints and for depth. He practiced with them for 1 day and then decided to retire. It's only been at least 6 years. So that was weird. Arizona Cardinals also in news again, this time for a much better news. They extend their left tackle DJ Humphries for 3 years for $51.7 million. Sonny Moses is $17 million. Pretty good deal. He's a good player. Of course, the 49ers have told Jimmy Garoppolo they are moving forward with Trey Lance and he can seek a trade. I don't know how he has been traded yet. I just think that no one wants him. Remember, he's an average starter in this league at the end of the day. He make $26 million might seem a little steep, and also he's coming off major shoulder surgery. Was only cleared to throw a couple weeks ago, so I think people are worried about that. So for why he hasn't been traded, but right now the 49ers backup quarterback appears to be Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's due to make $26 million this year. They could cut him with no penalty, but I think they can get a good draft pick back for him, so they want to try to do that. Some other training camp news. The Dwam Brown is visiting the Jets. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle. Long-time Texan and Seattle Seahawk. He's visiting the Jets as a Jet fan. I'm hoping they sign him. If Mekhi Becton gets hurt, you could put Dwayne Brown in there. He's still pretty good. By the way, it's official. Mekhi Becton will be the right tackle, not the left tackle side. They decided to move him. George Fong played well at left tackle last year. We'll stay there. So we'll see if they sign Dwayne Brown or not. We'll talk about the Patriots play calling. Obviously, their offensive coordinator for the last 10 years or so, Josh McDaniels, took a head coach job with the Raiders. Did not hire an offensive coordinator. And Bill Belichick and the Patriots have not named one either. Matt Patricia, of course, was their defensive coordinator on defense for 6 years. Then had his horrendous head coaching with the Lions. Brought him back last year as a senior defensive assistant. All of a sudden now, I think he's like the wide receiver coach. He did work on offense as an assistant, like his first year as an assistant at the Patriots years and years and years ago. Other than that, he's been an assistant coach on defense. And apparently the other day at training camp, he was the one who was calling plays. So he's a guy who's a pretty good defensive coordinator, but doesn't know anything about offense. He's all of a sudden looking like he might be the offensive coordinator all of a sudden. Joe Judge, of course, had a failed stint as the Giants head coach. Before that, was a very good special teams coordinator for the Patriots. They brought him back as the quarterbacks coach. Apparently, he's involved in the play calling, and Bill Belichick, who obviously he's a defensive guy, but he's an all-time great head coach, and I'm sure he probably could call plays if he wanted to. He's much more. He looks like he's more involved with the offense than he has been in the past. I don't know about this. I know it's the Patriots. I know it's Belichick. He's amazing. Maybe the best head coach ever in the NFL history. But you have a young quarterback in Mac Jones, had a really good rookie year, proved a lot of people wrong in his first year. He's got to continue to do that. He lost a lot of weight in the offseason, looks great, in the best shape of his life. His leadership looks a lot better than this offseason and in training camp. He's got a lot of potential, and not naming an offensive coordinator, having a former defensive coordinator and one of your defensive assistants right now calling the plays, a former special teams coach, and Joe Judge being his position coach. You got Belichick, who really doesn't usually call plays, isn't really that involved in the offense now. I don't know. So they sure get to figure out. Who knows? Maybe the Patriots know who the play caller is, and maybe Mac has known all offseason. Maybe he's known all since training camp started, but they're just not telling anybody. It's kind of the Patriot way, I guess. But there was one point it looked like Belichick was calling plays. Now it looks like Matt Patricia is calling play, which I do not recommend. He's a good defensive coordinator. Obviously a terrible head coach, but he did do a good job as defensive coordinator for them before he took the Lions job. But offensive coordinator, I would not trust that. Joe Judge, I would not trust as an offensive coordinator. I'll take him as a special teams coach. Offensive coordinator, I'm not sure. The Giants' offense the last 2 years was maybe the worst in the NFL with him as their head coach. So we'll see how that turns out. We got a quarterback competition in Carolina. Baker Mayfield, who they bring in, and then Sam Darnold. They're competing. Head coach Matt Rule is in no rush to name a starter there. They both have split the first and second team reps so far. I'm actually hearing that Darnold actually look better, but it doesn't seem like the Panthers are in any rush to make a decision there. We had the Hall of Fame game the other day, so the preseason for the rest of the league will start this week. Houston Texans have a couple of rookies making waves. The second round pick safety Jalen Peter is expected to start. Lovie Smith said he's done everything that we've asked of him. He's done everything that we want out of that position. He looks like he's going to start. And probably fourth round rookie running back Dameon Pierce has looked really good, and right now is probably expected to start. It looks like. I mean, their running back room is not good. Rex Burkhead and all those guys they got are not anything that that inspire me. So it's possible. So he's looked really good, and they said a lot of people think he is their running back one right now. Injury news: Tampa Bay Buccaneers star receiver Mike Evans is nicked up. Todd Bowles, their head coach, said it's a hamstring injury. He strained it, but he'll be fine. And then we got some wrestling news. Let's recap Raw and SmackDown from this week. Raw, the new women's section of Bayley, who's been out for over a year. She came back at SummerSlam, and then Dakota Kai and Io Sky put the women's division on notice. They attacked Becky Lynch, who was already beaten up, was already hurting. Bianca Belair fought Io Sky, but it ended in a no contest when Bayley and Dakota Kai brawled with Alexa Bliss and Asuka. Alexa Bliss and Asuka came out to help Bianca Belair during the match, and those four ended up brawling. So then the match ended up not happening. Earlier Asuka almost had a match, but then Bayley, Sky, and Kai all came down the ring and attacked them, and then they ended up teaming, kind of coming together to help Bianca Belair because they figured, we have respect for each other. We both don't like Bayley and her faction. Let's help out Bianca Belair. And AJ Styles, he won the match against Mustafa Ali and The Miz. He wins that match. Miz has been struggling after he was losing to Logan Paul. Seth Rollins defeated Montez Ford in a one-on-one match. I actually think the Street Profits might be breaking up soon. I think that Montez Ford has a chance to be a really good singles competitor. I think that tag team has kind of run its course. Someone wins that match. That was a good match, and then AJ Styles won his triple threat match against Mustafa Ali and The Miz, so he advanced to the finals of a tournament. He ended up facing Ciampa because Ciampa beat Chad Gable and Dolph Ziggler in a triple threat match, and then AJ Styles and Ciampa met in a one-on-one match to determine the number one contender for the United States Championship, which of course is held by Bobby Lashley. And Ciampa defeated AJ Styles after Miz distracted him. And next week on Raw, which will be tomorrow on Raw, it will be Bobby Lashley defending against Ciampa for the U.S. title. And Edge cut a typical Edge promo. He said he vowed to end the Judgment Day. Of course, he returned at SummerSlam and beat them up. And the Usos defeated the Mysterios to retain their tag titles, and then afterward, the Judgment Day attacked the Mysterios. Edge came out, fought off Finn Balor. He tried to spear Finn Balor, but then Rhea Ripley pushed Dominic into him, and he accidentally speared Dominic Mysterio. Then he tried to run after Judgment Day, and then Ray comforted his injured son. I wonder if Dominic will go to Judgment Day. It might be a hot take, but I don't think Dominic Mysterio is a very good wrestler. I think Logan Paul is already a better wrestler than him, and he's had 2 matches in his career. I think Dominic has no wrestling talent. I think it's his last name. It's the only reason he's good. That was Raw. SmackDown. We started off with Bloodline rolling up in their cars. Throughout the night, Sami Zayn was trying to talk to Roman Reigns, and then at first the Usos showed up. He was like, "Hey, he's not available right now. I'll shoot you a text." He was like, "Okay." And later he came back. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to have a good reception." So I wasn't sure if he texted me. And then the Usos were like, "Oh, I was just about to text." He was like, "Oh, perfect timing." And then he was like, then he was like, "Wait." Sami Zayn was about to go in. He's like, "Wait, hold on." Like, Wise Man just pull him and isn't here. Of course, he was F5 through the announce table, so he's injured right now. So he was off TV for SmackDown. He said he's usually the one who sets up, Roman's music and stuff in the production truck. But could you take care of that? Sami Zayn was like, "It's not really my job. I don't really work in that production truck." But then he said it would mean a lot to Roman. He was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And he came back and said, oh, I set it up. It's all good. I kind of got in the fight with the guy, but in the production truck, but whatever. And then he was like, all right, you're not gonna be able to talk to Roman. He's like, oh, come on, I've been trying all night. He's like, I am the honorary Uce. He's got his, of course, got his bloodline shirt on, and then Jey Uso was like, you want to know what true? Was like, oh, Roman's got 2 titles, we got 4 titles. You got to stop pulling your weight around here, or we'll make you take that shirt off. And then he stormed off, and then Jimmy Uso just kind of like looked at him and shook his head, and then walked away. And then Sami Zayn looked a little embarrassed. So a rough night for Sami Zayn. We had Ricochet be Happy Corbin after they were all laughing at him, and then he was getting all pissed. And Ricochet was like, all right, I'll meet you in the ring. And Ricochet ended up beating him. Happy Corbin might be going back to before he so-called won all that money in Vegas when he was almost homeless. They had that whole storyline. That's what it's starting to look like, which I wouldn't mind because I can't stand Corbin at all. And Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Ludwig Kaiser, and he will face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship next week on SmackDown. And then we had interesting Liv Morgan, the SmackDown Women's Champion. Of course, she had a controversial over Ronda Rousey. She was pinning her. Ronda had her submission move, but Ronda's shoulders ended up going down. Referee counted to 3, but her shoulder was up before he even counted to 2, and Liv was tapping out. The referee made a mistake. Controversial win, and despite Liv being a babyface, she got booed when she was being interviewed in the ring when they asked her about it. And because Ronda Rousey was suspended because she beat up the referee after she got pissed that she lost that match, there was a gauntlet match between 7 different women. Sonya Deville and Aaliyah Stars. Sonya Deville beat Aaliyah. And Raquel Rodriguez would run through Sonya Deville, Shotzi, and Xia Li, and Natalya. But her leg was already beaten up. And then Shayna Baszler ended up coming in the ring and ended up beating her. So Shayna Baszler will face Liv Morgan for the Women's Championship at Clash at the Castle, which will be in Wales. The Viking Raiders defeated Tommy Gibbs and Jim Mulkey in basically a squash match, very short tag team match. And Kofi Kingston attacked them with kendo sticks after they injured Xavier Woods last week after they beat the New Day in a tag team match. And then Kofi Kingston fought Eric, bigger guy of the smaller Viking Raider guy, and he ended up skimming a win with a kind of a roll-up pin. In the main event, the Bloodline came out. They were talking. Roman saying he hates Brock Lesnar, but he has respect for him. He put Paul Heyman out of commission. Then Drew McIntyre came out. Of course, Drew McIntyre beat Sheamus for which gives him a future championship match. Probably a Clash of the Castle. It looks like that he's gonna fight Roman. He started cutting a promo, and all of a sudden he was attacked from behind by the returning Karrion Kross and his sidekick, I guess, Scarlett. He attacked Drew McIntyre. He gave the blow on a look, and he put his little one of those sand timers on the ring apron, and he was pointing to his wrist, his whole TikTok trademark thing, and a very interesting end to Friday Night SmackDown. All right, before I wrap up the show, I have an announcement. I've been doing a weekly recap. I'm supposed to doing it every day. I'm going to be doing weekly recap for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, I'm going to go back for probably about a week. Probably do it every day. In about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to do a NFL team-by-team preview. And then, after that, depending on my school schedule, We'll see. Hopefully it says every day. Hopefully it's at least 3 or 4 times a week. It should be at least that. We'll let you guys know, but I will be the weekly recaps will be it'll be a little more frequent in about 2 weeks. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.